Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Before we begin the council session today, I'll make a couple of announcements. Due to the continuing threat to public health from COVID-19, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and to offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, Enquirer, the Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting, and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call the roll to take attendance, and members that are in attendance say a couple of words to make sure that your image is displayed on the screen. Decker, please call the roll.
Yes, Mr. President. Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues in the city of Philadelphia. I am present.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues in the city of Philadelphia. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman Dom.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues and the City of Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues in Philadelphia. Present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning to the City of Sisterly Love. Happy Environmental Justice Month. Thank you.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gim.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Sending prayers out to all the families who have lost loved ones to senseless gun violence.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Mr. President, colleagues, Philadelphia, I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues in Philadelphia. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues. Present.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
And good morning to all. We have established a quorum, so we're going to get started. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes the Reverend Dr. Donna Lawrence Jones, pastor of Cookman Beloved Community Baptist Church. She is here today as a guest of Councilwoman Gim. I would ask all members and guests to please bow your heads for the invocation. Pastor.
Thank you. Almighty God, we stand on the land of so many peoples. We remember our ancestors, the Lenape. We remember even the words of our ancestors, our auntie, Maya Angelou, during this prayer. We remember the words of our uncle, James Weldon Johnson, during this prayer. We remember the words of our sister, our daughter, our niece, Amanda Gorman, during this prayer. These are words that came by inspiration of your spirit to encourage us during such time as this, when we are called to serve and to be servants and to be served, to heal and to be healed, to love and to be loved. As residents and folk in this beautiful city of love. Lord God, when day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We brave the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. And the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. And somehow by your grace we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, simply unfinished. O God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us this far on the way, Thou who hast by Thy might led us into this wonderful light that is before us this morning. Just keep us on the right path. We pray for our city, for our council, for our mayor, for our judges, for our neighbors, for everyone, from porch to city hall, and everyone, lest we forget, living on the streets or under the bridge, in hospitals. Lord, we pray for strength for this body, that yet on the pulse of this morning, they might leave behind, as all of us, whatever nights of terror and fear we may have had, that they might, as all of us, enter into this beautiful daybreak that's wondrously clear by your grace, that they might bring with them the gifts that their ancestors gave to them. Some are the hope and dream of slaves. Some are the hope and dream of immigrants. Some are hopes and dreams of the Lenape, of our First Nations. Some are hopes and dreams of folk they don't even know, because perhaps they lost relatives and friends at tender ages. But in all of those hopes and all of those dreams of ancestors seen and unseen, known and unknown, we are blessed to stand before you with new hopes, new dreams, and renewed vision. Visions of service, visions of love, visions of peace, and visions of justice. Keep us forever on those paths, no matter what, and continue to give that inspiration that comes only from you, that enables us to do by your grace far more than anything we could ask or imagine. It is in honor of your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend. We really appreciate the spiritual guidance this morning. We really need it. Thank you.
I will remain in prayer for the rest of this season.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Appreciate it. And our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, January 27, 2022. And the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the journal January 27th, 2022 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, January 27, 2022 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and our journal is approved. The next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Thank you. The chair thanks the Councilwoman. And the chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning certain legislative matters that may arise during the course of today's session of council that were not listed on the calendar circulated prior to today's session.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that any of the following matters, if considered today, may be added to the agenda for this session of council and, as required by law, subsequently published on an amended agenda after the consideration of those matters: resolutions authorizing hearings, amendments to bills on first reading, the reconsideration of a bill vetoed by or recalled from the mayor, resolutions taking substantive action to be voted on in this session, a motion to withdraw a bill or resolution that is not on the calendar, and a motion placing a bill or resolution on or returning a bill or resolution from the suspension calendar that is not listed on today's calendar. The purpose of this motion is to provide the public with notice concerning possible actions by council that arose too late to be included on the calendar that was published prior to today's session.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the legislative matters stated by Councilwoman Parker may be added to the agenda for today should those matters arise during the course of the council session. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it, and the motion carries. And the next order of business is communications. And the clerk will please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that he may have in his possession. Mr. Decker?
From the mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia, I am pleased to advise you that on February 2, 2022, I signed bill number 210683, which was passed by council at a session on January 20, 2022, and that I am returning without my signature bill numbers 210922 and 210923, which were passed by council at its session on January 20, 2022. And I am transmitting for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to create the Department of Aviation, to transfer the functions of certain city agencies with respect to operations of the city's airports to the newly created department, and to provide for additional duties of the department. And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 1537 South Lambert Street, 1514 South Opal Street, 1520 South Opal Street, and 2008 Wilder Street in the 2nd Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 3851 Aspen Street, 3855 Aspen Street, 3732 Haverford Avenue, 3825 Fairmount Avenue, 3605 Mellon Street, 3607 Mellon Street, 3832 Mellon Street, 3858 Mount Vernon Street, 614 North Shedwick Street, 3832 Wallace Street, 3830 Wallace Street, 708 North 34th Street, 709 North 35th Street, 676 North 36th Street, 681 North 37th Street, 740 North 38th Street, 5139 Delancey Street, and 747 North 39th Street in the 3rd Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds convey fee simple title to certain city-owned lots or pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 3rd Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 809 West 1st Street and 2955 North 8th Street, located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 3215, 3217, 3221, 3223 Shelbourne Street, 901 through 901 and 905 East Westmoreland Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District. And an ordinance authorizing the striking from City Plan Number 97 and abandoning of a right-of-way for drainage purposes and water main purposes in the vicinity of East Broad Street and extending from Washington Avenue to Carpenter Street, and a right-of-way for gas main purposes located in the vicinity of North Washington Avenue and extending from 13th Street westwardly to a terminus. And an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to create the Department of Aviation, to transfer the functions of certain city agencies with respect to the operations of the city's airports to the newly created department, and to provide for additional duties of the department, as approved by resolution of the City Council. And an ordinance authorizing the execution, delivery, and performance by the Philadelphia Facilities Management Corporation on behalf of the Philadelphia Gas Works of a renewal of service agreement for gas storage and transportation under rate schedule GSS with Transcontinental Gas Pipeline Company. And an ordinance constituting the 26th supplemental ordinance to the restated general water and wastewater revenue bond ordinance of 1989 as supplemented, authorizing the bond committee to issue and sell one or more series or subseries of tax-exempt or taxable water and wastewater revenue bonds and revenue refunding bonds, and authorizing agreements to provide credit enhancement or payment of liquidity sources or any combination of the foregoing for such bonds, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Appreciate that. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. And by way of a reminder, we're asking that all resolutions, including privileged resolutions, be placed on the final passage calendar at our next session of council, unless they are being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide the appropriate opportunity for public comment. And I'd like to thank you very much in advance for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, please read the titles of the legislation that's being offered today by our members.
Councilwoman Parker offers 2 bills and 1 resolution. On behalf of Council President Clark, an ordinance authorizing the Philadelphia Housing Authority to acquire fee simple title to certain properties located in the vicinity of 9th Street to the east, 11th Street to the west, Cumberland Street to the north, and Susquehanna Avenue to the south.
For the committee.
And on our own behalf, an ordinance providing for the submission to the qualified electors of the City of Philadelphia of an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to to provide for the creation of a Fair Housing Commission as an independent commission as approved by resolution of the City Council.
For the committee.
And a resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter to provide for the establishment of a Fair Housing Commission as an independent commission and providing for the submission of the amendment to the electors of Philadelphia.
For the committee.
Councilwoman Gim offers one bill and one resolution. Entitled an ordinance amending Title VI of the Philadelphia Code entitled Health Code to add a new chapter 6-1400 entitled Cumulative Impacts Assessment to provide for the identification of environmental justice communities and inclusion of cumulative impact assessments as part of certain permit and license review and approval processes, to provide for the administration and enforcement of the cumulative impacts assessment approval process and make certain technical changes.
Councilwoman Kim, do you want all to be read first? I reckon Councilwoman Kim. Councilwoman Kim?
Thank you so much, Council President. As my colleague, Councilmember Gilmore Richardson noted, February is both Black History Month and Environmental Justice Month. And the spirit of both those honorary titles came together yesterday beautifully in our city government. I want to congratulate Councilmember Gilmore Richardson on the establishment of the Environmental Justice Advisory Commission, a really long effort that was started by our colleague and her mentor, Councilmember Blondell Reynolds Brown in 2019. It was so wonderful to welcome a diverse group of individuals representing neighborhoods and constituencies all across the city in an urgent effort to combat both environmental racism and uplift racial justice. And yesterday, I joined environmental and legal advocates from the Public Interest Law Center, Penn Future, Power, Interfaith, Earth Justice, Philly Thrive, the 13th Ward, and more in Grays Ferry to announce the Community Health Act. This legislation will make Philadelphia a national leader in bringing environmental justice considerations directly into city policy. It would require us to develop the first ever comprehensive environmental justice map for the city, including factors like health outcomes and overall air quality, and instituting protections for communities which have endured an undue burden of harm from pollution. Philadelphia is among the top 25 most polluted cities in the country. The impact of that pollution does not fall evenly in our communities. Some neighborhoods have 22 degrees difference on the hottest days. Black children make up the majority of the thousands of asthma cases experienced in Philadelphia, and elevated rates of cancer and heart disease are concentrated in specific zip codes. Environmental racism is no accident. It's by design. Historic redlining, the concentration of industrial development, poverty, all of these things have had a factor. And that's why with this legislation, Philadelphia is taking a purposeful act to combat these factors and to take a major step forward in protecting the health of these communities. I want to thank my colleagues and co-sponsors, Councilmember Gautier and Kendra Brooks, who have really been at the forefront of leading on these issues, and I look forward to working with all of my colleagues on this work. I expect this will be a robust process and cannot wait to engage with all of you on it. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and that's referred to committee.
Councilwoman Gim also offers a resolution declaring January 31 to February 4, 2022 as National Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action in the City of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar. Oh, Councilwoman, you wanted to speak on this also?
Yes, I would like to be recognized on this particular resolution. Council President, I would like my colleagues to consider a request for a rule suspension to permit consideration of this resolution for consideration today so we can vote and adopt it, given that the Black Lives Matter in our schools concludes on February 4th.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. All in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that will be on today's final passes calendar.
Councilman Jones offers two resolutions entitled a resolution congratulating Pennsylvania athletes Summer Butcher, Andrew Hio, and Brian O'Neill, and wishing them as they compete with Team USA at the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing.
Well, next week's calendar.
And a resolution designating the week of January 30, 2022 to February 5, 2022 as Catholic Schools Week in the city of Philadelphia, and further honoring and recognizing Catholic education throughout the city and all Catholic schools in the 4th Councilmanic District of the city of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Johnson offers 2 resolutions entitled a resolution recognizing Chad Dion Lassiter for being named Pennsylvania's 2021 Social Worker of the Year.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying feasible Title II, 1537 South Lambert Street, 1514 South Opal Street, 1520 South Opal Street, and 2008 Wilder Street in the 2nd Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Sanchez offers 1 resolution entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 3215, 3217, 3221, 3223 Shelbourne Street, 901 and 905 East Westmoreland Street located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Green offers 2 bills entitled an ordinance constituting the 26th supplemental ordinance to the restated general water and wastewater revenue bond ordinance of 1989 as supplemented, authorizing the bond committee to issue and sell 1 or more series or subseries of tax exempt or taxable water and wastewater revenue bonds.
For the committee.
And an ordinance authorizing the execution, delivery, and performance by the Philadelphia Facilities Management Corporation on behalf of the Philadelphia Gas Works of a renewal of service agreement for gas storage and transportation under rate schedule GSS with Transcontinental Gas Pipeline Company.
For the committee.
Councilwoman Brooks offers 1 resolution entitled a resolution honoring the labor and power of Black Ruthie Wilson, whose critical industrial work at the Philadelphia Navy Yard, along with 600,000 other Black Rosies, helped win World War II, and whose labors and wages served as the launching pad of the Black middle class.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gautier offers 1 resolution honoring and celebrating the life and monumental legacy of community and religious leader Imam Asim Abdur Rashid and Masjid Mahyuddin, who passed away on January 29th, 2022.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Thomas offers 2 resolutions entitled a resolution authorizing the Public Health and Human Services Committee to hold hearings on the transfer of ownership of Somerton Nursing and Rehabilitation Center and its impact on the residents and workers of this off-sold facility.
Today's calendar.
And a resolution honoring and congratulating Champion of the Week, Beach Community Services, on their development of the Philadelphia Black Biz Directory and community engagement in North Philadelphia during the 4th Annual Black Business Crawl.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Squilla offers 1 resolution entitled a resolution honoring and recognizing Edward Ed McBride, PICO External Affairs Manager, on the occasion of his passing.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers 1 bill and 2 resolutions entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 14-1000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Historic Preservation by adding a new section prohibiting the demolition of buildings or other structures located within the 8th Councilmanic District and providing that such prohibition shall expire after a specified period of time.
Read the next. Councilwoman, do you want to be recognized after? We'll recognize you now.
Whatever way you want to do it, Mr. President.
It's all good. I'll defer. However you want.
All right, so I'll speak on them as they are read, if that's okay with you. I just wanted to state that too often developers circumvent zoning requirements that make community input a prerequisite to development on existing structures. It's a predatory practice that has had adverse effects on communities in my district, and they're doing it at a rate that threatens to outpace communities' capacity to digest changes in their own neighborhood. For those reasons, I am introducing an 8th District 6-month development moratorium on these types of developments specifically. It will not affect small renovations or development projects valued at $150,000 or less. The goal is to create space for communities to assess proposed transformations to their neighborhoods. And I look forward to accomplishing with this legislation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. For the committee?
Councilwoman Bass offers 2 resolutions, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia City Council Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to conduct public hearings to investigate racial biases in development in the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. President, as you're well aware, we've had a significant amount of conversation, particularly in the last couple of months, around racial bias and development here in the city of Philadelphia. There's something really wrong here. There's something really wrong that's happening, that we don't have primarily African American and Latino developers on the same scales as other developers here in the city. And we need to talk about that. So in the same spirit as my development moratorium legislation, I am also introducing a resolution authorizing council to hold public hearings to investigate racial bias in development. According to a 2020 Philadelphia Inquirer article covering a data report from the Office of Equal Opportunity, a mere 11.5% of city contracts go to African American firms, and only 3.5% go to Hispanic-owned firms. Those abysmal figures must be evaluated by council to ensure that all Philadelphians have an equal opportunity to participate in the development and growth of our city, and particularly in their neighborhoods. There's nothing worse than being an economic bystander in your own community as other folks come in and do development projects that may or may not have a requirement for input from our citizens. So we want to change that, and we want to have a very robust conversation, and we look forward to hearing from Philadelphia's minority development community about their experiences, about what they have seen, what they know, and some of the things that have happened along the way with doing development here in the city of Philadelphia. So I'm really looking forward to that hearing, Mr. President.
Thank you. That will be on today's calendar.
Thank you.
Also offered is a resolution calling on the city of Philadelphia to explore ways to assist residents in maintaining the infrastructure of their property.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. President, I'm introducing this resolution urging the city to aid residents in the maintenance of the infrastructure. As we talk about infrastructure, we talk about sort of these larger scale projects. But and recently there's been a lot of talk about the broad level in light of the new federal funding. But we must not forget the infrastructure that most directly impacts Philadelphians, which includes the maintenance of driveways, retaining walls, and sidewalks. While infrastructure funding on the largest scale will be consequential, it is equally important that we don't leave behind those who are struggling to afford the cost of maintaining those aspects of their community. I hope this resolution serves as a call to action for our city to make progress on this issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. That will be on next week's calendar.
Thank you.
Well,
Councilman O offers 1 resolution, entitled a resolution declaring Philadelphia stands with Ukraine and urging the White House and United States Congress to fully support Ukraine amid hostile acts and military buildup along its border from Russia.
on the next week's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered today by the members, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolution. And we will now have a report from committee, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a report from the committee of the whole.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee of the whole reports out 1 bill with a favorable recommendation.
Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee of the Whole, which was referred Bill number 220003, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 2500 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Councilmanic Districts, by revising the boundaries of the councilmanic districts under certain terms and conditions. Respectfully reports it is considered and amended the same and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill number 220003.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill number 220003. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. And will be placed on our first reading calendar today. And our next order of business is the consideration of the calendar. I note that the bill just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had its first reading, and it will be on the second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. If there are no additional bills on our first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning the resolutions on the final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the following resolutions on the final passage calendar. They are resolutions numbers 220055, 220056, 220057, 220058, 220059, 220060, 220061, 220064, 220065, 220066, 220067, and 220068.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the resolutions just read by Councilwoman Parker. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries, and we can consider the consent agenda shortly. The chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to the resolutions being considered on the consent agenda, the following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210958 and 220013. All other bills and resolutions are being held, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. But before we proceed with the consideration of the bills and resolution, we're going to take a brief 5 to 10 minute recess to give our technology professionals an opportunity to connect our speakers so we can have our public comment session. We'll take a brief break. Thank you. Thank you very much. We're now going to start the process of our public comment session. So now that everyone is connected to the meeting, and before considering the resolutions and bills we have before us today, we will consider public comment. It will go as follows. Public comment must concern matters on the second reading and final passes calendars for possible action at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support of or against the legislation, and add your name to the list. We will then telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Today, we will have 3 minutes to speak, but from time to time, that may be altered based on the volume of individuals. But in order to be fair to all those wishing to speak, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. So once invited to the meeting and asked to begin your testimony, a timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony, and when there are 30 seconds remaining, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. I also reserve the right to limit the number of speakers where repetitious comments are being made on the same subject matter could affect our callbacks for public comment. And also, one last thing, please be aware that this public meeting is being recorded. Because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Thank you very much for your participation today. I would now ask Mr. Decker to please read the first name of our witnesses today.
The first speaker we have today, Mr. President, is Daniel Trubman, commenting on 220058.
Good morning.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. This states your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Daniel Trubman, Trubman. I call today to encourage you to support this resolution recognizing February 2022 as Environmental Justice Month in the city of Philadelphia. But I'm also asking you to not just absentmindedly vote in favor of this environmental resolution perfunctorily, like so many similar such resolutions that have come before this council over the years, but to seriously consider what it means for this legislative body and city to enact an agenda that advances environmental justice. Surely that must mean a reversal of the harmful policies implemented by the city of Philadelphia over the generations that further advanced and entrenched systemic environmental racism in our country. But unfortunately, instead of righting the wrongs of our predecessors, this council has too frequently doubled down on policies that not only degrade our environment, but consistently require communities of color and low-income communities to suffer disproportionately. This resolution rightfully recognizes that Black and Hispanic communities bear a disproportionate burden from air pollution. Yet it was only last month this council unanimously voted to impose oriented zoning and higher parking minimums along Ridge Avenue. How did that advance environmental justice? That was only the latest example of many of this council doubling down on environmentally destructive auto dependence, with seemingly no regard for the accompanying negative health consequences. Last year, this council downzoned and imposed new parking minimums in Society Hill, one of the most walkable neighborhoods in this country. Without objection or even public deliberation, this council approved downzoning a portion of Girard Avenue, well served by multiple rapid transit lines. Last spring, this council approved the budget for this current fiscal year with a reduced parking tax. These are not the choices of a governing body that considers advancing environmental equity as a guiding principle. Over the years, as cities across the country have successfully rolled out bike and bus infrastructure to wean themselves off our collective dependence on fossil fuels, this council has consistently resisted any such meaningful measure if it would conceivably inconvenience drivers. What good does it do to acknowledge our public policies have led to significant health disparities for people of color if you're not going to rectify those errors? What is the point to recognizing climate change will disproportionately impact communities of color and low-income communities if it in no way influences your voting decisions while considering substantive and not merely symbolic measures? Is environmental justice important only as long as no NIMBYs object? So by all means, vote in favor of this resolution. But advancing environmental justice requires more than periodically assenting to impotent resolutions. The time for purely symbolic measures is over. We must act You must actually take concrete steps to advance environmental justice, or make a mockery of the values you claim to cherish. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Leah Henderson, commenting on 220056.
Good morning. State your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
My name is Leah Henderson, and I am in support of the resolution. And I would also like to extend a special thanks to Council Member Catherine Gilmore Richardson for presenting the resolution. You are a true supporter of the legacy in the city of Philadelphia, and I'm honored to be here and to have my work as a children's book author recognized in this way. I would also like to acknowledge and give my deepest gratitude to Vanessa Lloyd Scambati and the African American Children's Book Project for its tireless efforts in uplifting Black voices. As a Black creative myself who writes to highlight the varied layers of richness in the Black community, the African American Children's Book Fair is a fabulous example of that depth and beauty. I'm looking forward to celebrating the rich legacy, creativity, and talents of so many Black authors during this year's book fair, which is its 30th anniversary on Saturday, February 26th from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Convention Center. It will be a wonderful gathering of engagement and community, a day of Black books and Black voices, an event that many City Council members have supported over the years. Thank you again for this recognition and this honor of my work, and I'm truly happy to be here, and I hope to see you all on Saturday, February 26th. And for more information, please go to the African American Children's Book Project.org website. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Paula Chase, commenting on 220056.
Good morning. Just state your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
My name is Paula Chase. Good morning, honorable council members. Today, my world's colliding a little bit. Some people are military brats. I am a municipal brat. My father was a longtime director of transportation for the city of Annapolis. I worked for the city of Annapolis and now work with the Maryland Municipal League. I have intimate knowledge of the hard work and dedication of municipal officials, both elected and staff. So I'm deeply honored to be before you today, and thank you for what you do for the city of Philadelphia. But today I come to you wearing my author and literacy advocacy hat in support of the resolution to honor the African American Children's Book Project and Book Fair. It's a literary event that honors Black creativity, encourages literacy, and amplifies the many voices in Black children's literature. A special thank you to Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson for presenting the resolution. A child that finds a book that reflects who they are or who they'd like to be is on their way to greatness. There is no greater gift than that of reflection and representation in literature. Vanessa Lloyd Scambati has put her soul into the annual African American Children's Book Fair so that books are not only accessible, but celebrated. My heart is especially open to our teen readers. We lose so many readers once they hit middle school, right as they're struggling with identity, friendships, or simply trying to understand life. And my books reflect the joy, pain, frustration, and fun of being a 13-year-old. It's important that our older middle schoolers know that there are books still out there for them, and that the African American Children's Book Fair isn't only for their younger siblings or friends. My latest book was mentioned in the New York Times as a great escape read, and who among us has not needed to escape and find an adventure to lose ourselves in, especially in the last 2 years? So on Saturday the 26th, we want young readers to come escape with us at the Pennsylvania Convention Center. I'll be there signing, as will many other authors. There'll be so many books to choose from, authors and illustrators to meet, and wonders to find. And we appreciate that this council is going to honor 30 years of offering that experience to not only those in Philadelphia, but beyond. And we ask that moms, dads, aunties, and uncles come out as well, because you're never too old to discover a book. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The final speaker is Peter Winslow, commenting on 210956.
Good morning. I'll state your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
My name is Peter Winslow. I'm a resident of Philadelphia. Thank you, President Clark and members of City Council, for this opportunity to provide public comments in support of Bill number 10956 as amended to establish a Philadelphia Public Financial Authority. And special thanks to Councilmember Green and the members of the Finance Committee for unanimously passing this bill out of committee. This financial authority will provide a financial engine to help address the hard, persistent problems that are priorities for you as council members and for your constituents as community stakeholders. Intergenerational poverty, affordable housing, educational opportunity, job creation. We know the context and the scope of our city's problems. About 400,000 people, 1/4 of our city's population, live below the poverty line. Around 3/4 of these folks are Black or Latinx. But only 9% of the city's small businesses are located in neighborhoods where household income is below the median. So while Comcast, Brandywine, and the other pillars of our business community have ample access to credit at fair rates, Black and Brown-owned small businesses and other currently disadvantaged stakeholders within our communities do not. The Financial Authority will be of these stakeholders, by these stakeholders, and for these stakeholders. The Financial Authority will collaborate with these stakeholders and with the existing institutions of the Philadelphia financial ecosystem to apply best practices found throughout the world for Philadelphia and to innovate new approaches. To determine those parts of the machinery of the financial ecosystem that need a little grease and those that need to be overhauled. To analyze why these stakeholders are, as Councilmember Green describes them, hard to lend to borrowers, and figure out what to do to improve their situation. To identify gaps in credit availability, bottlenecks in the system, deficiency in customer experience, inequities in outcomes. The gaps we have already identified are large. For example, our small business lending gap exceeds $840 million. Our home mortgage approval gap exceeds $62 million. So let's get to work. Let's establish the Philadelphia Public Financial Authority as an investment in the future of Philadelphia, the empowerment of our communities, and the prosperity of our citizens. I also wish to thank the Council and the administration for taking actions to promote environmental justice. Specifically, I congratulate Christine Knapp in the Office of Sustainability on the launch yesterday of the Environmental Justice Advisory Commission. And I thank Councilmember Gim and Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for introducing legislation to promote environmental justice in the permitting process by mandating consideration of cumulative impacts and by requiring meaningful public participation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it.
There are no other speakers, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. That concludes our public comment for today. We will now consider today's resolution consent agenda. I will ask Mr. Decker to please read the titles of all the resolutions on the consent agenda. After each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the resolution on the resolution consent agenda. Upon such an objection without debate, the resolution will be immediately removed from the resolution consent agenda and placed on today's regular and final passage calendar. Clerk will now read the titles of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda. Mr. Decker.
Resolution number 220055, entitled the resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title 2, 1001, 1003, and 1005 West Arizona Street, 1005 West Cumberland Street, 1007, 1009, 1011, 1013, 1019 West Arizona Street, 1021 West Cumberland Street, 2325, 2335, 2337, 2346, 2347, and 2419 North 10th Street, 2440 and 2444 North Delhi Street, 924 and 932 West York Street in the 5th Council Managed District. And resolution number 220056, entitled the resolution honoring the African American Children's Book Project on the occasion of its 30th annual African American Children's Book Fair. And resolution number 220057, entitled the resolution recognizing February 2022 as Career and Technical Education Month in Philadelphia. And resolution number 220058, entitled the resolution recognizing February 2022 as Environmental Justice Month in the City of Philadelphia. And resolution number 220059, entitled a resolution recognizing February 1 through 7, 2022 as National Gun Violence Survivor Week in honor of survivors of gun violence and the lifelong burdens they carry. And resolution number 220060, entitled a resolution honoring Penn's Village for its work caring for Philadelphia's aging population, recognizing the 20th anniversary of the National Village Movement. And resolution number 220061, entitled a resolution recognizing the nomination of Ariana J. Freeman to the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit and encouraging her confirmation by the United States Senate. And resolution number 220064, entitled a resolution honoring the legacy of Joseph Fox Bookshop, located on Sansom Street, upon its closure after over 70 years in business and recognizing its many contributions to the literary culture of Philadelphia. And resolution number 220065, entitled a resolution honoring and congratulating Champion of the Week, Tina Sloan Green, and Icons Lacrosse team for being the first Philadelphian and all-black team to participate in the World Lacrosse Tournament this year. And resolution number 220066, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2046 Martha Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District. And resolution number 220067, entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to 731 Mercy Street in the 1st Councilmanic District. And resolution number 220068, entitled a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 152 Logan Street, located in the 8th Councilmanic District, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. And the chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion to adopt each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 And each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda has been adopted. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, will you please read the title of resolution number 210958?
A resolution amending resolution number 200001A, which provides for the rules of government of the Council of the City of Philadelphia by providing for rules regarding recusal from any legislation due to conflicts of interest.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Councilwoman, one second. Councilman Thomas, did you want to be recognized, or is that speech for later? Majority.
Majority. Sorry, Council President.
Okay. All right. No problem. I'm sorry, Councilwoman. Didn't mean to interrupt you. You made a motion for the
Yes, sir.
resolution? It was
Yes.
seconded? Was it seconded?
Second. Yes. Second.
All in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
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 I'm sorry. Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries and the resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 220013.
A resolution approving the appointment of Seth Bluestein as City Commissioner to fill out the unexpired term of a vacant seat in the office of the City Commissioners.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Thank you so much, Council President. I want to briefly explain my reasoning for voting against the Republican appointee to the City Commissioner's office. I want to emphasize that this isn't personal. This is about the fact that currently Philadelphia Independents third-party voters now outnumber registered Republicans. I am proof that there is a viable third-party alternative to defaulting to appointing Republicans to open minority seats. Further, I have real concerns about the Republican Party occupying a seat in the Commissioner's office. Across the country, the GOP has been leading efforts to undermine the integrity of our elections by silencing working-class Black people, immigrants, and other marginalized voters. It is an office where the primary directive is to make voting more accessible, And this should be real concern. And we shouldn't forget that last year it was the third-party voters and progressive who took to the streets to protect our presidential election results. And it was the members of the Republican Party who weeks later staged an insurrection to overturn the results. Our democracy is in a fragile state, and we don't need to continue giving power to a party chipping away at our democracy. And for this reason, I am voting against this appointment. Thank you so much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I am very happy to vote for Seth Bluestein. He started at the bottom and over 10 years worked in every part of that office under Republican Commissioner Al Schmidt until he achieved the position of Chief Deputy Commissioner under Commissioner Al Schmidt, and also was selected by the three members in a bipartisan manner to be the Chief Integrity Office. And while there was a lot of rioting and anger and all those insults going on, Seth Bluestein was a recipient of much of that as he worked in a very nonpartisan manner to do what he thought was a good job for the people. Yeah, he's a Republican, but I think we judge the fruit of every tree on the basis of what it produces. He has been someone with integrity, someone who has been a non-political person serving the public interest, and I think it's rare that you get someone like that. So I would certainly urge everyone to consider his experience, his sacrifice, and his service as being someone worthy of the nomination by our mayor and supported in a bipartisan manner by both Commissioner Al Schmidt and the chair, Lisa Dealey. And I have not heard in any of this any failings on his part. You know, I have been contacted by people who asked me and all of us here to vote against him because he happens to be a registered Republican, but they have not mentioned in any way where he is lacking, nor have they offered an alternative. At this point in time, as we approach important elections, we need the commissioners to be appointed.
At once.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Jones.
Thank you. What I don't want to do is leave what we're doing this particular time to be characterized by the press. So I will explain for those members who may be watching this and not necessarily understanding what this particular resolution is for. I'm seeing too frequently, and when it gets translated in the press, it doesn't reflect what we're actually doing. This is a seat that was vacated upon the resignation of Al Schmidt, the Republican city commissioner. He then went on to work for the Committee of 70. That's not relevant today. The mayor under the city charter gets to nominate the replacement that is forwarded, and it has to be confirmed by city council. So this is the mayor's nominee. Today we will have a vote on that nominee, just so people who are watching this understand what we're doing, who may not be following it as closely as we do as elected officials. So with that, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. And the resolution is adopted. Just for the record, 2023 is closely approaching, as you all know. So there will be an opportunity for all individuals and parties to get engaged. And I anticipate that there will be a full plate of individuals expressing an interest to fill that seat and others. All right, thank you. Mr. Decker, do you have any other resolutions?
I have a resolution declaring January 31 through February 4, 2022 as National Black Lives Matter at School Week of Action in the City of Philadelphia, introduced today by Councilwoman Gem.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gem.
Yes, thank you very much, Council President and colleagues. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of the resolution indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Public Health and Human Services Committee to hold hearings on the transfer of ownership of Somerton Nursing and Rehabilitation Center and its impact on the residents and workers of this off-sold facility. Introduced today by Councilman Thomas.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia City Council Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to hold public hearings to investigate racial biases in development in the City of Philadelphia. Introduced today by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our calendar for today. And we will now move to our speeches. But prior to recognizing members regarding speeches, I will note for the record at the time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat
You
feature...
might want to go out when you...
Councilwoman Parker.
Mute yourself. Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this particular purpose. With that said, Chair recognizes speeches on behalf of the minority. Not seeing any. On behalf of the majority, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. I wanted to thank you and all of our colleagues for your support of Resolution 220058, declaring February 2022 Environmental Justice Month here in the city of Philadelphia. Yesterday, I joined Mayor Kinney to announce the 18 individuals who were selected to serve on the city's very first Environmental Justice Advisory Commission. These individuals were selected after a public solicitation for applications and a very careful review of over 140 applications by the Environmental Justice Working Group that has been working with the Office of Sustainability over the last few years to develop this commission as a result of a resolution and legislative work of my predecessor and mentor, Councilmember Blondell Reynolds Brown. This was a legislation she introduced in 2019. But additionally, Mayor Kinney made a few other announcements related to requests that I have made of the administration over the last 18 months as a result of all the suggestions we have received from the 61 environmental groups we have been meeting with over the last 18 months. And that includes the creation of an interagency environmental justice working group and the establishment of a community resilience and environmental justice grant fund. Commissioner Bettigoul also announced some very important changes over at the Department of Public Health following a months-long collaboration that started last year with my office based on the collaborative work done with the 61 environmental groups. And that includes a new environmental complaint process, a new outreach process for community members, new communications relating to air quality emergencies, new staff to address environmental justice by July 2022, and I repeat, new staff who will work to address environmental justice by July 2022. Those hires will be made. And an agreement to partner on a series of community conversations on environmental justice and air quality. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work with each and every one of you on all of these important initiatives, especially as we begin to develop the community conversations that will start tonight in Councilmember Johnson's district. Thank you, Councilmember Johnson, for your partnership. With the regional administrator of the United States Environmental Protection Agency, where I serve as vice chair of the Environmental Justice Committee of the Local Government Advisory Committee for the US EPA. So thank you, colleagues, so much for your support of Resolution 220058, and I'm looking forward to our continued work together. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Keep up the good work. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. As we know, February is Black History Month, and when I think about Black history, I often think about historical Black colleges and universities. We here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania have the nation's first HBCU. Excuse me. I'll allow my colleague, Councilmember Parker, to debate which is the first HBCU, because I don't want to get myself in trouble between the Lincoln and Cheney grads. HBCUs have really been phenomenal in my life. My father attended Morgan State, as well as my aunt and 3 cousins, and my sister attended Spelman College. And when we think about Black history, HBCU graduates have really been leaders in Black history, from Dr. King at Morehouse to our Vice President Harris at Howard University. And so when we think about Black history, it's American history. And so some of the recent news that's occurred really troubles me. The fact that we've had 3 waves of bomb threats at HBCUs. In the past month, there have been 3 bomb threats at Howard University. And, this is a real concern, because what type of impact are these bomb threats having on our future leaders? Future leaders like Kevin Vaughn Jr. and other young men and women at schools all around this country. Kevin is the son of my Chief of Staff, Sharon Vaughn. And just think about what type of impact this is having on their ability to become future leaders. And so these bomb threats have been happening at HBCUs, 16 HBCUs, including Morgan State, including Spelman, and including Howard, which is also known as the Mecca. So the concern is, how are we addressing these issues? The FBI, the ATF, and local authorities are investigating these bomb threats. No suspects have been identified as of yet. But as we celebrate Black history, we've come a long way. But these bomb threats also reflect and remind us that the unfortunate bombing in 1963 at the 16th Street Baptist Church, where 4 Black girls died in Birmingham, Alabama. And so unfortunately, we still have a long way to go when we still have bomb threats in our country, especially at historical Black college and universities, who are preparing our future leaders who provide that next chapter of Black history. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. The Donald Trump legacy continues. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. A couple things that I want to just touch on real quick. The first thing is just, I guess, echoing the sentiments of my colleague, Councilmember Green, in recognizing that this is Black History Month. We are launching the 4th annual Black Business Crawl that we've done in support of Black businesses in the city of Philadelphia, and in collaboration with Black business owners, as well as some of my colleagues. And again, we do this every year because we recognize that Black folks are about, or over 40% of the population in the city of Philadelphia, but less than 5% of the Black business owners. So we want to encourage people to support and court those Black businesses throughout the course of the month of February. And hopefully you have a quality experience and you can support those businesses all year round, right? Because February is the time to highlight those businesses, but we want to encourage folks to support those Philadelphia businesses, those Black Philadelphia-based businesses all year round. The second thing is on January 24th, we sent a letter to Secretary Pete Buttigieg. And basically what we communicated was our concern around infrastructure issues in the city of Philadelphia. We know that the federal government is looking to put some significant dollars and see some significant investments in infrastructure. And here in Philadelphia, we still have this issue that 12% of our roads are producing more than 80% of our car accidents, and we're seeing more fatalities from car accidents. We're seeing more hit and runs in record numbers. And as we are looking to do our part as it relates to capital investment in infrastructure dollars locally, we want to definitely make sure that we're pushing the federal government to match our dollars locally to ensure that we're addressing one of the ills that we have here in the city of Philadelphia. Last but not least is an issue that I've actually tried to stay out of because clearly I have a bias. But I've been listening to my colleagues as well as folks in the public talk about this issue all year. And that's this issue around admission into some of our magnet and special admission schools here in the city of Philadelphia. I am a father of two. One of my sons is in fourth grade. We have similar names. And, I just sat on the sideline and watched my wife and him go through the process as it relates to applying to a magnet school here in the city of Philadelphia. And this past weekend, a lot of parents across the city were notified whether or not their child had got into school. And, myself and a lot of my contemporaries, we do a good job of trying our best to raise our children. We got a little crew of fourth graders who kind of rock out together. They play a little basketball together. They hang together. Some of my colleagues know some of these children. And a lot of them applied to the different magnet schools across the city of Philadelphia, and none of them got in. And we find that interesting because all of our children are straight A students. Clearly, there's the melanin component in our skin. We were told that the focus here would be diversity and going after young people who attend some of our schools that are in some of our poorest communities. And it's interesting that none of them got in. Now, me personally, I'm not too disappointed because I'm not exactly upset with where my child goes right now. And I'm also not disappointed because my son is in fourth grade. And this isn't that crucial year. You know who I'm concerned with? I'm thinking about that eighth grader who had been spending, 4, 5, 6 years getting straight A's, having perfect attendance, fighting through a pandemic because they dreamed to go to, maybe a Gerard Academy music program or a Masterman or a Central or one of the other special admission schools. And this entire time throughout the course of the process, they were preparing themselves based on a certain criteria. And for us to change the rules at the last minute under the lens of diversity and equity is something that now has my attention. And I don't know if this new model is going to produce the outcome that it is supposed to accomplish. But what I do know is that I'll be joining a lot of my other colleagues, and I too now will be closely monitoring this process because I am very concerned. I'm very concerned about what we are doing as it relates to our special admission schools. I don't understand why we feel like the best method to do this would be a lottery when we can look at folks and tell who they are, what they've accomplished. We can give people an opportunity to have an interview, sell themselves, produce a portfolio. And if our goal is to produce more black and brown children, I'm wondering, why do we think a lottery is the best way? So I'm very curious to see how this process unfolds. And again, I'll be joining a lot of my colleagues to really monitor this process because, again, when we're talking about doing things through a lens of equity, unfortunately, a lot of agencies as it relates to city government haven't gotten it right. And the school district would definitely fall in that category when we look at who's currently enrolled in a lot of the special admission schools as is right now. So I just want to say thank you, Council President, for giving me the opportunity to ramble a little bit about this issue. Again, I purposely stayed on the sideline because I didn't want to influence the process through because of ethical reasons. And now that the process is complete and I've been able to go through it as a regular constituent, I have some of the same concerns that people have brought to us as folks who represent them as members of City Council. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman, you never ramble. You always speak very pertinent speeches, and we really appreciate you being engaged in this very significant issue, and it obviously will continue for a while. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, CP. Thank you, Council President. As we celebrate Black History Month, as we celebrate Environmental Justice Month, I want to also acknowledge that this is the month of National Gun Violence Survivors Week. And so I wanted to take a moment to thank all of my colleagues for supporting a young lady by the name of Idara Combs. She will serve as the new victim advocate here in the city of Philadelphia. That particular position will advocate with our police commissioner in the homicide unit. That particular position will advocate with our district attorney's office. That particular position will advocate with our attorney general's office. And most importantly, that particular position will advocate with our courts and the community around survivors of gun violence. And so the mothers and fathers who has lost their loved ones to senseless gun violence will now have an actual office that will advocate and will serve as a voice for them. And so those 1,000 families that have lost loved ones over the last 2 years in the city of Philadelphia will have an opportunity to have a voice that will focus on addressing their issues and concerns. And so as we go through this process, I want to make sure that we do roundtable discussions, not only with my colleagues, but also the community on how we can do more to help people put their lives back together after they have lost loved ones to senseless gun violence. Also, Council President and colleagues, next week we will be hosting a hearing around a very, very critical issue, which is near and dear to me, but also my colleagues as well. And that's making sure that we're addressing diversity and inclusion around the distribution of city contracts to Black and brown businesses. Here in the city of Philadelphia, which is the #1 big city when it comes to poverty, right? We have an African American community which consists of 44% here in the city of Philadelphia, yet we receive less than 9% of city contracts. I'm going to say that again, 9% of city contracts. So on Monday, on February the 7th at 10 a.m., we will be having a hearing to examine that process with our Philadelphia International Airport, the Philadelphia School District, also on the Philadelphia Navy Yard, and we also want to take a look at doing a follow-up conversation with our port. It's imperative that we make sure we're not doing business as usual. And that's the same with individuals receiving contracts day in and day out, and those individuals who aren't having an opportunity to participate do not have a say. And so we look forward to a very robust conversation and robust discussion around this particular issue. With that being said, thank you, Council President, and it's good to see everybody. God bless.
Thank you, Councilman, and Councilman. We're all happy to see that with respect to the gun issue, particularly around ghost guns, that the president today is referencing that in a very aggressive way. Up in New York, where the new mayor has stepped to the plate, understands the concerns and the need to be aggressive on this issue.
Well, hopefully, Council President, as we move forward here in the city of Philadelphia, that same type of approach and that same type of energy also is duplicated, because it's definitely needed at this particular time in our city.
Yes. So thankfully, we're finally getting some federal intervention, and hopefully what he's proposing will be helpful to the city. So thank you, Councilman, always being on point as it relates to our gun violence in the city. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wasn't going to give a speech of majority, but I was particularly moved by what Member Thomas talked about. I recall traveling back when I used to travel for the city of Philadelphia, going to Korea, South Korea, going to China, going to the Middle East. And what I remembered about their public education system, there was a meritocracy in place. And what that meant was, after 8th grade in China, and you were guaranteed a public education up until the 8th grade. And
Councilman Modesto, we lost the councilman. Modesto?
He was having some technical difficulties, Mr. President, and had to get on Josh Cohen's feed, but he should be coming right back.
I'm right back. See, that's
All
what
right.
I get for talking too long.
You had nothing to do with that, sir.
Yeah. So what I was saying was that I remember you had to test into high school. And during that testing process, you were told what you were eligible for. So there were some people cast into a workers cast, and some people were scheduled for law or accounting or math or science. And I remember coming back on the plane saying how sad that was, that for those individuals who maybe didn't have their scholastics together right then, they were already on a trajectory that would hold them at a certain level forever. And I was so grateful that in the United States and in Philadelphia in particular, we weren't in that. But when I look at what Member Thomas talked about, when I reflect on going to a medal ceremony at Global Leadership, where there was a big auditorium and it was hundreds of kids who were on a waiting list. And those who were selected through the lottery were knighted almost with a medallion. And those that didn't make the lottery went out there shattered, crying, like, oh my, what's going to happen to the rest of my life because I didn't get in this school, I didn't get in the right school. I am now, relegated into a lesser school. Now, no school in Philadelphia should be the lesser school, but when you have situations like Member Thomas talked about, now I have no doubt, I know how much he loves his children. I see it whenever I see them. I really relish in how they interact. But there are a lot of kids in the city of Philadelphia that don't have a council member Thomas for a dad. And we have to, I join you, Member Thomas, in taking a hard look at this. And every neighborhood should have a school where those kids in that neighborhood are proud to claim, proud to go to. This kind of bifurcated system, if you're lucky to have a council member advocate, that's one thing, but all kids, all of them should have that. And so I join you. Tell me where to line up, Member Thomas, and thank you for not just looking out for your child, because you're confident you're going to take care of business, Dad, but looking out for all children. So I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. All schools matter. Chair recognizes Councilman Down.
Thank you, Council President. I'll be brief, but I just wanted to recognize that yesterday I attended, along with, I saw Councilman Squilla and many other council people, the swearing in of Judge Lori Dumas to the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court. What an amazing accomplishment. And for nearly 2 decades, Judge Dumas served on the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas. She was assigned to every major trial division, serving in the civil trial division, and immediately before her election to the Commonwealth Court, she served in many other branches and also did a lot of volunteer service. But Judge Dumas will become the sole person of color on the 10-member court in Pennsylvania. That makes her just the second out of 31 judges in all 3 Pennsylvania appellate courts, and she's joined by Superior Court Judge Carolyn Nichols. Pretty amazing. And as Judge Dumas spoke about her parents yesterday, I wish we all could have heard it. She talked about how her parents aren't here and how proud they would be of her accomplishments, which is really amazing. For Philadelphia and the state of Pennsylvania, what a great day for all of us to see Judge Dumas join the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court. I just wanted to congratulate on behalf of all of us, Judge Dumas, and the fact that she's in Philadelphia is just a great thing for all of us. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for follow-up.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real brief, Council President. I want to thank Councilman Thomas as well as Councilman Curtis Jones for really highlighting an issue that's been under the radar, but also it has been addressed, and I don't think it has been received the level of attention that I believe it deserved. And so Councilman Thomas is talking about the new selection process for magnet schools. And so with this new lottery system, you have countless families who have applied for their children to go to magnet schools who have either been denied or have been put in the lottery. And so although we're trying to address the system with fairness and transparency and include more predominantly African-American brown children in magnet schools, I believe that this current process is going to do more damage than good. There are a lot of families that have children who have been casualties of this new process. For instance, they could have just had grandfathered in students who are already on track to complete middle school or high school in terms of them attending the magnet schools of their choice, and then after that, start the new process. And so I know Councilman David O did have a hearing on this issue. For some apparent reason, again, the level of attention and accountability with the school district just haven't been forthcoming as of yet. And so, however, I could be supportive of this process, Councilman Thomas and Councilman Jones. And again, my boys are doing okay, but nevertheless, it's not about my boys. All of those kids here in the city of Philadelphia are our children at the end of the day, especially us being elected officials. And it's our responsibility to advocate and make sure that every young person get a quality education, but most importantly, that this process is fair. This process is transparent, and at least the parents who are advocating and fighting for their children have at least some level of say-so and understanding regarding the process. And so, as we do in cases like this, I'm going to step up to the plate with Councilman Thomas and Councilman Jones. I do know some parent advocates who are advocating around this issue. We can follow with Councilman O as well, because he held a hearing to find out, because it can't be a situation where the district just isn't responding. I mean, that's just totally unacceptable. That's not fair. As folks like to say, that's not transparent, and there's no level of accountability. And so I'm going to follow up with all three of you, just to see how do we at least provide some transparency and some fairness to this process, however the best way that we can do. And I'll just leave on this note. And Sarah, Recreation Center deserves a swimming pool. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. That concludes our speeches today on behalf of the minority and the majority. And with that, Chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, February 10th, 2022 at 10 a.m.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and second that council stand adjourned until Thursday, February 10th, 2022, 10 a.m. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much, and please be safe. Thank you all.